And next, we have two more talks. We're going to have John Moore talk to us about the healthcare that heals itself. And after that, we're going to have Neri Oxman telling us a little bit of her work on design and networks. So with no further ado, we'll give the stage to John. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. So my name is John Moore. I'm a PhD student in the New Media Medicine group here at the Media Lab. And so we all know that healthcare is broken. And we all know and are further reinforcing through this conference that what is really going to change healthcare is putting power out into the hands of people, into the hands of consumers who need the help from healthcare but aren't allowed to be involved. So what I want to focus on a little bit today is some of our convictions in new media medicine and how we are engaged in this problem, and a little way to think about why healthcare is so far behind other fields in embracing the power of the network and the power of people. So in new media medicine, we have some really strong beliefs about what the problem is, and we feel that there's an underlying disease in healthcare. And that underlying disease is paternalism and reactivity. So for the past several centuries, it has been doctors who have the knowledge, who make the decisions, and who tell people what to do. Society has changed. We live in an information age. People have Google, they have WebMD, they have the information at their fingertips, but the majority of them are still afraid to engage in their healthcare. And that's because internally that system is pushing out that they're incapable. It's diffusing them, it's alienating them. And so the work that we do is to try to engage consumers in their healthcare from the inside out so that the system will embrace the work that all of you are doing in the area of empowering the network. So what we do are things like designing tools that allow patients to be involved directly with clinicians in decisions about their health, giving them agency in these decision processes, and making shared decisions that are designed to fit into their lives, that they feel when they go out into the world that it's not being something demanded of them, but something that they asked for. We give them tools to then track their diseases, to understand, and to communicate back with the healthcare system in a way that they are the controller. They're the guide in this system, and clinicians become the coaches in the process. That instead of this reactive system that lives around the paternalistic doctor, it is a collaborative system that reacts to the needs of people with their healthcare as issues arise in the context of their lives. So what this means is once you start to engage patients in the process, and instead of alienate them, and instead of diffuse their ideas and their confidence in tackling their diseases, you can start to engage that network. And what we're doing is building an open source platform for healthcare delivery, one in which patients are at the center. They own and control of the data. They control who they share it with, but it's not separate from the existing healthcare system. It's designed to be embraced by it, and we're building this system in collaboration with medical practices that dramatically rethink the role of the patient. And what that allows us to do is allows us to tackle not only chronic disease, but wellness as well. So through collaborations with other groups, we've developed systems for helping people track their diet intake. And it won't be just for them to visualize on their own this diet intake, but for them to get help from a dietitian and to share it with their social network and compete or cooperate towards achieving those goals. Same with exercise. It won't just be pedometer data that sits on a website and gives people information back to themselves, but it's intimately tied into the rest of their healthcare data and that they can share and work with others. With chronic diseases like Parkinson's disease, we're collaborating with others to collect data quantitatively to measure their movement disorder, correlate that with their medication behavior, so that we can motivate healthy behavior change. But that's on the individual level. But because we're building a framework in which people are engaged as active participants with the entire system, that we allow them to look at the data across the population. and suddenly we can rethink how we perform academic studies in medicine. They won't be driven by the almighty doctor who says, I want to collect 100 patients and do a randomized controlled trial. Instead, it'll be the patients who self-organize and say, we want to know the answer to this question. Does this drug for Parkinson's disease have neuroprotective effects? And therefore, do I need to take it even before I get symptoms? And what you allow them to do is collect this objective data in a massive prospective trial of 100,000 or 1 million patients, as opposed to the small paternalistically driven trial. And it allows patients to be part of the solution to the healthcare system. Same thing with things like physical therapy. Right now, patients go home, they do the physical therapy on their own, and in fact, 50% of them don't do it or don't do it properly. But if we build it into a socially engaged game that allows them to play, to achieve their outcomes, after they've made shared decisions with the healthcare providers about their goals, and then to get feedback both from the provider and from peers and other social support so that we can really get them to the point that they feel like they're, again, an active participant in the process. Same type of approach to rethinking those tools that have traditionally been very paternalistic. So Yadid in our research group has focused on the stethoscope. There's nothing further perpetuating this disease of paternalism than a device that the clinician puts in their ear, listens, hums and haws, and doesn't tell you what they're listening to underneath. So instead, how can we free this up? How can we put it in the hands of every individual that in their home, they can place it on their chest, they can hear it out loud, they can see it on the screen, but they're not alone in it. They have this trusted partner who you can stream that data across the internet to them. They can help you evaluate it, and they can be part of the solution because now it's not this sole person who listened to those heart sounds, but instead it's shared with the network, and we can do mathematical analysis across hundreds and thousands of recordings to compare those people and to find new cures or new diagnostic modalities by harnessing the power of the data from the entire network. Some of our latest work is focusing on the problem of hypertension. So I just wanted to highlight this problem because it shows why it's going to be so important to rethink our process of delivery of healthcare and to rethink the contribution of the individual. If you look at hypertension, it affects 30% of Americans. It costs an extraordinary amount in morbidity and mortality. But we know how to diagnose the disease, and we know how to control it. It's quite simple. But 60% of people are not controlled. And not controlling disease means 30% more heart attacks, 20% more strokes, and 50% more heart failure. So it's not that we need to invent some new device to diagnose the disease, or we need to invent some new treatment. We just need to figure out how to engage people, educate them, and motivate them. So the additional part of this is that if we just do that by taking the approach that we do now, that is, bring people into the office, tell them what to do, let them go out, do it for a while, come back, reflect, it'll cost us about $361 billion a year to care for all those hypertensives. That's actually more money than it costs to deal with all the strokes, heart attacks, and heart failure. So there's no question about it. We need to take a dramatically different approach. And so the approach that we take in our work is giving people a dashboard like this of their hypertension. What do you need to do today? And we simulate the disease that they have. You see the simulation of the circulatory system there, and a key down at the bottom that every day affirms certain assertions about how they're doing, taking care of themselves. And they can dig into this information on deeper levels and see how they've been performing over the course of a week, and see for each of their medications, for their blood pressure, how they are in terms of the goals that they've set collaboratively with their clinicians. And they can dig into this information and see, click on each medication and see what it's doing currently, not for the average person with hypertension, but for them at that moment in time based on their actions. And they're in control of all of this data, so they can share it with others, family members, friends, peers, clinicians, and get real-time support. And they can also be part of this future network that then mines all of that data and finds new cures. It finds new associations between different diseases, new purposes for molecules that already exist, but reapplied to different problems. And what we firmly believe is that the way to do this, again, is not just to come from the outside in, of empowering the people with a network, but also the curing the disease from within the healthcare system so that it's more accepting of the network and its power. And the way to do that is through education and motivation and self-efficacy. Thank you very much. The New Media Medicine Group is located on the second floor in the East Lab, and please come by and see our demos. And in addition, every January we hold an event that's a project sprint where you can come and work with us on projects. We've had 5 sponsor companies work with us last year, and we're hopeful that even more will come and work with us this year. You get to partner with other sponsors, work with students, help to understand this ecosystem of healthcare, and be a part of the solution and contribute open source tools back to the community. Thank you very much.